Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. You are standing in a forest. No path, no trail markers, no phone signal. The trees look identical in every direction. You have been walking for 4 hours and you have no idea which way you came from. The sun is somewhere behind the clouds. There is no sound except wind and birds and the growing certainty that you have made a serious mistake. That is what getting lost feels like. That specific cold panic, the way your stomach drops, the way everything suddenly looks the same. Now consider this. For 300,000 years, human beings moved across landscapes that had no roads, no maps, no marked trails, no satellites, no compasses, no signs, no infrastructure of any kind. They crossed deserts. They navigated dense forest for hundreds of kilometers. They moved across open ocean. They tracked animals for days across featureless steppe. They migrated out of Africa and across Asia and into Australia and eventually to the tip of South America, threading through environments no human had ever seen before. And they did all of it without getting lost. Not because they were lucky, not because the world was simpler, because they had built, over hundreds of thousands of years of survival pressure, a suite of navigational abilities so layered and precise that modern researchers studying them have called it, without exaggeration, a superpower. Here is how it worked. And why you have almost none of it left. Start with the most fundamental layer, the one that requires no tools, no training, no conscious thought. The human body may have a magnetic sense. This is not folklore. This is not fringe science. In 2019, researchers at Caltech published a study in the journal Neuro documenting measurable changes in human brainwave activity in response to shifts in magnetic field direction. When test subjects were placed inside a specially shielded chamber and exposed to a rotating magnetic field mimicking the Earth's geomagnetic environment, their alpha brainwave amplitude dropped sharply in response to northward field rotations. The brain was registering the magnetic signal. It was processing it. The subjects reported nothing. They had no conscious awareness that anything was happening. But their brains were tracking magnetic north the entire time. One leading hypothesis is that humans carry magnetite crystals somewhere in the brain tissue, the same mineral used by migratory birds, by sea turtles crossing entire ocean basins, by salmon returning to the exact river where they were born. Magnetite has been found in human brain samples, and researchers have proposed it may function similarly across species. The mechanism is still debated. But the brainwave response is not. Something in the human body registers the Earth's field. The crystals align. The body shifts. You feel a pull without knowing what you are feeling. Modern life almost certainly suppresses this. Steel-framed buildings generate their own magnetic fields. Electrical wiring distorts the ambient field in every room. Cars, trains, elevators, and smartphones all introduce competing electromagnetic noise. For the overwhelming majority of your waking life, your magnetoreception is firing into static. But strip all of that away, put a person in open landscape, and the signal may still be there, running quietly underneath conscious awareness, exactly as it ran in every ancestor you have ever had. Ancient humans did not know they had a compass in their skull. They just knew which way felt right. But magnetoreception was only the foundation. Layered on top of it was something that required active cultivation, and that ancient peoples developed into a form of knowledge so sophisticated it is only now being understood by Western researchers. Landscape reading. When archaeologists and cognitive scientists began working closely with communities that still maintain traditional navigation practices, particularly Aboriginal Australians, the Inuit of the Arctic, and the Mao navigators of Polynesia, what they found was not a set of tricks or shortcuts. It was an entire cognitive architecture built around environmental attention that modern urban humans simply do not possess. The Inuit of the Canadian Arctic can navigate in whiteout conditions when the horizon disappears and the sky and snow become a single featureless white, using wind. Not the wind as it feels in the moment. The prevailing wind blows consistently from a known direction for weeks at a time across the Arctic. It shapes snow into consistent patterns called sastrugi, long asymmetric ridges that point like arrows across the landscape. An experienced navigator can run their fingers across sastrugi in total darkness and know exactly which direction they are facing. The wind wrote a map on the snow. They learned to read it. The Mao navigators of Polynesia crossed thousands of kilometers of open ocean using a system called wayfinding that integrated star positions, wave patterns, swell direction, water temperature, cloud behavior over distant islands, and the flight paths of specific bird species at specific times of day. Each element alone was partial information. Together, they triangulated a position with an accuracy that stunned European navigators when they first encountered it. There were no instruments. The entire system existed in trained human perception and memory structures that took years to build. Aboriginal Australians encoded navigational information into song. The song lines are sequences of landmarks, encoded in melody and lyric, that trace routes across thousands of kilometers of landscape. A person who knows the song knows the route. The song is a map that cannot be lost, cannot be damaged, cannot be stolen. It lives in the memory of everyone who carries it. Researchers including Lynn Kelly, who has studied memory systems and landscape encoding extensively, have found that songline navigation encodes landmark sequences with a density and precision that rivals any external navigation system humans have since invented. These are not primitive approximations of navigation. They are fully developed cognitive technologies that exploit capabilities the human brain already had and organize them into systems that could be transmitted across generations. Beneath all of these cultural systems was a biological capacity that modern humans retain but almost never develop. Path integration. Every mammal tested for it has it. Rats, dogs, horses, and humans all demonstrate the ability to track their own movement through space and maintain a continuously updated sense of position relative to a starting point, even in complete darkness, even with no external reference points. The mechanism is a network of specialized neurons in the hippocampus called place cells and grid cells, which together build a real-time spatial map of wherever you are moving. Grid cells fire in a mathematically precise hexagonal pattern as you move through space. Place cells activate when you occupy a specific location. Together, they triangulate your position continuously, without your awareness, without your effort, without any input from the outside world at all. This system can drift over time. Without external calibration, errors accumulate. But in an environment rich with landmarks, sounds, smells, and magnetic cues, the system recalibrates constantly, automatically. Ancient humans moving through familiar landscape were running a continuous self-updating map built into the architecture of their own brains. The reason this matters is what happens when it is not used. A 2008 study of London taxi drivers found that the posterior hippocampus, the region most associated with spatial navigation, was significantly larger in experienced drivers than in matched controls. The longer a driver had been navigating, the larger the region. The brain physically grew in response to navigational demand. And subsequent research found the reverse. When experienced navigators switched to GPS for guidance, hippocampal engagement dropped sharply. The brain stopped building the map because it no longer needed to. The organ shrank from its own capability. You were born with the hardware. Modern infrastructure simply gave you no reason to run the software. There is one more layer. The one that sits above all the biology and all the cultural technology. Attention. Ancient humans paid attention to their environment in a way that is genuinely difficult for a modern person to access for more than a few minutes. Not because ancient humans were different people, because their survival depended on it. The angle of shadows told them the hour. The behavior of animals told them about water, weather, and predators nearby. The smell of soil told them about rainfall. The shape of vegetation told them about what lay underground. The sound of wind in different types of trees told them about terrain ahead. This was not conscious analysis. This was automatic, trained perception that accumulated over a lifetime spent entirely outdoors in a single landscape. A person who grew up in one terrain had encoded thousands of micro-landmarks unconsciously over years into a mental model so detailed that what looked to an outsider like featureless wilderness was to them a richly labeled, densely annotated map. They never got lost because they were never not paying attention. The next time your phone dies on a hike, and that particular feeling crawls up the back of your neck, understand what you are actually feeling. You are not experiencing the absence of navigation. You are experiencing the atrophy of it. Every capability described in this video, the magnetic sense, the path integration, the landscape reading, the trained environmental attention, is still inside you. The hardware is intact. The neurons are there. Something in your brain tissue registers field shifts you have never once consciously noticed. You simply have not needed any of it. Not once. Not in your entire life. Every time you might have needed it, something else answered first. Your ancestors had none of those answers. They had only landscape, attention, and 300,000 years of accumulated knowledge about how to read both of them. They were never lost because the landscape was never silent to them. You have just forgotten how to listen.